Hi, everybody. Liza, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. It's a
You're
pleasure to be
welcome.
here.
You're welcome. We're actually live on Facebook. Yay, us. Again, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I've been looking forward to having you on Facebook Live and asking you some great questions about accessory dwelling units. So I'm very excited that you're here. And I know the much anticipated questions that we have about accessory dwelling units and ADUs. A lot of us have these questions on our minds these days, especially since we have such a low inventory these days, and we're all trying to figure out what we can do to make our current homes much more comfortable. And so I'm so glad that you're here. So welcome. Um,
Thank you very much.
Yep, I'm Cynthia Cohn, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I'm here live from my living room with a special guest joining me this week's Fireside Chat. I'm very excited about it. As many of you know, I own a residential real estate boutique firm right here in Pasadena, and we specialize in working with executors and successor trustees. And we're so glad that you're joining us here today. One of my favorite parts of owning a business is really the opportunity that I have to bring people together and serving as a trusted resource to my network. I started hosting these fireside chats as a way really just to do that. And every other week, I've been inviting an expert in their field to join us right here at this fireside chat and really answer some of your questions and really give you insight into the more nuanced industries and markets. So far, over the last couple months, we have talked about the 2021 residential real estate market through the eyes of a buyer, which was super interesting. We also had a discussion about really how to purchase a multi-family property. A lot of you out there are thinking about how to add investment property to your portfolio. And we had Kieran Dillon here with Keller Williams, which was really so great. We also talked about the state of the Las Vegas real estate market. We had Delinda Crampton with Berkshire Hathaway come on and tell us all the great reasons why we should maybe think about moving to Nevada and perhaps Las Vegas. And that was great. And last week we had Phil Barbaro, one of my favorite estate planning attorneys here in town, really talk about this why everybody needs some sort of estate planning. So this week we actually have Liza Kerrigan. So I'm very excited to have her with us. Liza is a residential designer right here in Sierra Madre. Liza did her graduate work at Harvard University's graduate school, and she has studied architecture all over the world. She focuses primarily on additions and remodels, renovations, and even full rebuilds of fire or earthquake damaged residential properties. I know Liza has a lot of experience with accessory dwelling units, and she's here today to really share some of her knowledge with all of us and really tips as well. But before we jump in, I want to introduce her, and I would love for Liza to share a little bit about herself before we start. Liza, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from the East Coast. I moved here over 30 years ago to get married and have stayed here ever since. I started out living in Los Angeles, and I've done remodels, restorations all over not only Los Angeles County, but California, New York, North Carolina. And right now I'm doing something in Massachusetts as well. So most of my work is focused here in the Los Angeles County area. It's all residential work, but some of it is also elsewhere in the country.
I love that. And I know you're right in Sierra Madre, and I love that you're just right here and local and do a lot of work right where you live, just like I do. And I love that about living
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Um, the inventory right now is extremely tight. And in fact, I was just talking to a realtor friend of mine who has been in the business, I think he said since 1960.
Mhm.
So he has a lot of experience. And he said, Cynthia, I don't think I've ever seen a market quite like this. And I think that's really the truth. And especially what we've all been through, over the past year. I know with many of my clients and my friends, and even myself, I'm thinking, what things can I do to make my home more comfortable? Where can I create additional space for my gym or my office? Right now, like I said earlier, this is actually my living room. I had intention to convert my garage, but when the pandemic started, I just have been here. And I know the contractors have been very busy.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk to you about specifically accessory dwelling units, or as they call them, ADUs. Tell us, Liza, what is an ADU?
It's an interesting question. I think what most people want to know is what does it look like? How is it built? But I think the most fundamental thing that we have to understand is that an ADU is a zoning new regulation. You already have accessory dwelling, not, yeah, accessory units, not dwelling units on your property. Many people have pool houses or a separate garage or a guest cottage or a rec room. And those are all accessory units. This is an accessory dwelling unit, and it's been put in place due to the California housing crisis. So it was put in place. I think the ordinance came out from the government of California in something like 2017. It takes time for it to roll through to building departments. Most building departments activated their zoning changes in 2019. And so on to what it looks like. An accessory dwelling unit can be anywhere from, depending upon the type of unit it is, from 500 square feet to 1,200 square feet. It can be attached or detached to your house. And it's built to be truly just a living quarters, an independent living quarters on your same property that you can take advantage of renting out, should you wish to do so.
I love that. So you can either convert a garage that's on your property,
Mhm.
or you can put a freestanding build or plop or whatever a unit in your backyard on a foundation or something like that and hook everything up, or you can utilize or add on to the house and sort of create an additional space.
Yes. So I think the most popular option that people are thinking about is taking their garage and changing it into some kind of a living unit.
Mhm.
If you choose to keep the garage where it is and work on a design and you take away the parking spaces, most building departments are very happy to just let you go forward and do that. If the garage is too hard to maintain,
Mhm.
but you tear it down and rebuild exactly in the footprint, then you're allowed to do that and not have any more parking spaces. If you tear down a garage and build someplace else and it's going to be more square footage, then you sort of kick into different issues about parking. If you choose to add within your house, let's say you fill in a back porch area, you
Mhm.
also don't have to worry about parking as well.
I
So
see.
I think a garage is a great place to start with an ADU. And I mean, one of the first questions people have had is what happens, with the parking spaces? You
Mhm.
don't have to have another covered parking area if you start with your garage.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. That's great. And then I was wondering, you mentioned a couple other accessory structures on the
Mhm,
property. There could be, like, quite often when I sell a house, there might be a bonus space on the back of the garage,
mhm,
that may be permitted as such, or,
mhm,
not necessarily permitted as
mhm.
a, livable square footage. What is the difference between the EDU and any other accessory dwelling?
So there are actually no other accessory dwellings
Oh,
units. There are Perhaps in some cases there is a grandfathered or, granny flat as they call them, but usually those are unpermitted. However, in the general scope of this ordinance, you can get an unpermitted structure permitted. It's an incremental process, but it can happen over the course of, the last thing I read was 5 years. And I don't know all the hoops that you have to jump through. So if you have a garage with an extra shed on the back of it or an office on the back of it or something like that, that was never permitted, you can use that as an accessory dwelling unit. You just have to sort of bring it up to permitting over the course of 5 years.
Oh,
So
that's great.
you can have a gym,
Mhm.
as you were talking about in your garage, or you can have an office in your
Mhm.
garage. Those are not dwelling units; they're
Okay.
accessory units,
Mhm.
and those are your you cannot take away your garage to have those.
Mhm. And when
I
you
know
say
you're
take away,
saying
what do you mean
something,
by
but
that?
I
Take it
can't hear
away.
you.
Sorry? What do you mean by take it away?
The recording froze.
Oh, okay, there we are. We're back. I hope my my internet's okay. How's that? Better? Is that better? Okay, there you are. How's that?
Okay, that's good. I can hear you.
My internet. What
Sorry.
the heck? Okay, if we have a lot more problems with the internet, let me know because I can switch over to my laptop and we can just do that and keep going.
Okay, now
Oh, it's still unstable. Can you believe it? Okay. All right, how's that?
I think it's slow, but I can hear you.
I know, but we want it to
It's
be
delayed.
perfect. We want to be perfect. It's delayed, she says. Okay. Okay. Is that any better, Liza? Okay.
Do you want me to fire it, Flip?
No, still delayed.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can fire up my laptop and get it going. So everybody, oh well, this is what happens. So just hold on 1 second. One more.
Okay.
I'm going to have Tori put me on the laptop. See if we can do that. I think what we might do, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should just close it and restart it.
Now you're delayed again.
Let's do it on here.
But should I end it on here?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, we're going to put you on the laptop. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Should I ask her one more question as I'm doing this?
Liza, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, good. Why don't you talk about why build an accessory dwelling unit?
Okay. Well, I think the main reason to build an accessory dwelling unit is basically because California needs more housing. I think that's why the ordinance was put in place. But it also obviously increases value to your property if you can have an extra bedroom or a rental unit that you can gain rent from. I think there's an excellent website from the California .gov housing and community planning that points out all of the advantages and has lots of information, handbooks on ADUs and what to learn about them. But one of the things they do point out is that it's a great aging in place for seniors. It's a great aging in place unit for seniors, and it's a great unit for extended families. So they also recognize that people will be using them as offices and recreation places, but they are promoting them because they are specifically a living quarter that you can add to your property.
Mhm. Can you still hear me okay?
I can.
Oh, good,
Yep.
good, good. I
Can you
was
hear
gonna
me?
say that, let me know when it stops and we'll go on the laptop. The, that square footage of a garage, which might be an average of like 400 square feet.
I'm
Once a
sorry, you're delayed.
Okay, I'm gonna go on the laptop. Hold on one sec.
400 square feet is perfect for an ADU. Anything up to 800 square feet works pretty well. You can have an ADU up to 1,200 square feet, but in many cities, you have to have special reviews in order to have that 1,200 square feet. And I think it becomes complicated sometimes to fit 1,200 square feet into, if it's an accessory unit, into a lot that already has other buildings in it. So and there's also, in certain areas, you have municipality surcharges if it goes above 800 square feet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, 1,200 is quite a bit when you think that our average price per square foot is about 650 plus per square foot.
That's an incredible value, I think, an incredible increase in value of your property.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm going to move over to the laptop, so hold on one sec.
Okay.
No, just stop your video. No, how about stop your video? Great.
Okay.
There you are.
All right. Can we unpin that other one? Sorry, we're going to unpin me. Okay. Look at us go. Okay. Wow. Look at that. Well, we're there. Let's see if I can do it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see the other one. Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. And I'm going to look in the right camera. Thank you, Tori. See, thank God for Tori. Okay, so I know we were talking about why build the ADU, and I love that. So I know you were talking about going ahead and maybe building for your grandparents, so that someone can age in place. Or utilizing it as an office, or even, of course, you could rent it out and make it as an opportunity to generate more income for your family. And you gave me one other reason. What was that?
Well,
Liza?
just adding square footage to your property, as you mentioned, $650 per square foot of another sort of living area is an investment in your property. And because the state of California is so anxious to get more housing units out there, they have streamlined the process in building departments. So you still have to pay for permits, but the time it takes to get permits for it has been streamlined. And there's also, again, on this California Gov Housing and Community Planning website, a list of grants that you can get that assist you in building an ADU if you fulfill, the requirements of grants. So there's lots of financial incentive for people to go forward and build ADUs on their properties.
Right, I've seen that. I know that Pasadena actually has one of those programs as well for lower income, where there's a contribution as well. So, talk a little bit about the laws regarding that each city may have around accessory dwelling units, because I know it's a state law that you have the ability to build an ADU on your property, but how does that really right now versus 2 years ago? What does that really look like for each city? Maybe some examples.
It's very different for different cities. I was noticing that in Los Angeles, you're allowed to have a 2-story structure. In Pasadena, you can only have a single-story structure. Pasadena has a building height of 16 feet. And obviously in a 2-story structure, it's something like 21 feet for the building height. I think in the city of Los Angeles, it's very clear that any historic building, they're pretty much have just said, no, you can't do it. Because it's a historic property. In Pasadena, if it's a historic neighborhood, you can do it, providing that it can't be seen from the street. And if it is an historic house or historic property, it says no. But then if you look at it, if you scroll down further, they talk about how there's an exception. And then there's also an issue when it comes to fire. It clearly says in this ordinance that you don't need to have fire sprinklers, except if your house needs to have fire sprinklers. And then at the very bottom in small type, it says you must check with your fire department to make sure of any of this. So the city of Los Angeles says any hillside property on a high fire zone, you are just absolutely not allowed to build an ADU. And then in other cities, you can build an ADU providing the fire chief allows it or says you can do it with sprinklers. So there's all sorts of subtleties in each building department, but the general idea is 400 to 800 square feet, absolutely. 1,200 square feet in many cities, but some cities you have to sort of qualify that. And a living quarter. It has to be a dwelling unit, which means it does have to have a kitchen and it does have to have a bathroom, unless it's a junior dwelling unit, which is attached to your house and is only 500 square feet and it can share a bathroom. But it does have to have its own separate kitchen preparation area.
Okay.
So sort of, I know it sounds so tedious, but it's the difference between a guest cottage, let's say, doesn't need to have a kitchen. It can have up to 2 sort of fixtures, like it could have a toilet and a sink, but it can't have a refrigerator in there. But a dwelling unit really is set up for dwelling.
So like your garage, if you just can't go and put a bathroom in the garage and not the kitchen.
Correct.
Okay.
You need to have the whole kit and caboodle for it to be a dwelling unit, because the main intent is to, house people.
Right. And if people weren't going to do the ADU, they just wanted additional bonus space for their office or something like that, they perhaps could add that on to their garage, but it would just be permitted differently, like a storage or something like that.
Yes, and this is why I say it's a zoning issue. And I think that's a really good distinction. An ADU is a living dwelling unit, and it has to have all of that stuff in there. And if you choose to do it, it's a streamlined process that gets you through the building department pretty quickly right now. If you wanted to just have a rec room or an office, something like that, you would have to go through the normal channels, the normal zoning hoops that you have to jump through in order to do that work. So a lot of people have chosen to do ADUs when they're not really thinking about using them as a living quarters, but because it's a faster process, because they can get funding for it and hopefully get it done in a more streamlined way, they go forward and they do the full ADU. I actually have a project right now that we were considering it as a guest house because it didn't need to have as many fixtures in it, but it was so close to the property line it was an existing structure, it is an existing structure, that it made sense to call it an ADU and put a full ADU in. Otherwise, we would have had to pick up the structure and move it off of the property line for any other type of accessory unit. But because it's an accessory dwelling unit, they want those built and they don't mind if it sits close to the property line. And this was an existing structure that we're going in, like a garage that we're going
Yeah,
in.
I can tell you how many sales I've had where the garage is the line on the property.
Yeah.
Or close to it.
Yeah.
Or close to it. How's our internet here? Is it, you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Yes.
That's strange. We're on the laptop. So I was just asking Tori, do you think that we're recording the voice? Because I feel like we have it unmuted. We have it muted.
Oh, you're not muted on that.
Okay. All right. I can just see myself on the other one. Okay. I just wanted to check in because we've got like two things going.
Sure.
Liza, what is the actual process, or someone who's listening on our call today, what would be the process for them? Give us a start to finish sort of overview.
Sure. So because it's different in different cities, and because they've revised from initially when they sent out the ordinance, they updated it in 2020, and different cities took those updates and redid their interpretations of it. I think it's of absolutely critical importance that you research the building department requirements first. And many building departments have a special area in their website set up to just learn about ADUs. Pasadena has a great one. I think it's actually one of the best ones. Los Angeles is good, but it's not as clear as Pasadena's. And then you would go forward. It really depends upon what you decide to do. If you decide to build a separate accessory dwelling unit, I think that's a different process than going into an existing garage. And you would first determine, let's go to the garage, because that's probably the easiest place to work on an ADU. You would determine whether it was structurally sound at this point. It has to be up to present day codes. So chances are that because a garage is not a habitable space, it is not up to code and not up to habitable space code. So you would have certain code requirements that you would have to fulfill. And you would have to get some drawings submitted to the building department. They are required to look at an ADU and give approvals within 60 days of submitting, which is very unusual for a building department to have to commit to that.
So are you saying that the first step would be to meet with someone like you, a designer, to come up with plans for the ADU?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a designer. It could be a contractor, it could be an engineer. But I think in most cases, you would probably need a designer. You would submit to the city. It would be completed within 60 days. The review would be completed within 60 days. And you would then go forward and construct. So it's the same process in many ways as any other construction. It's just faster.
It's
easier.
So do they come out and take a look at your garage, or do they just look at your plans that you've submitted?
They will always come out during the construction process and look. So in the package that you submit, you have to show the existing condition as well as the proposed condition, so that they will sit at the counter and review everything, or sit at their desk and see the existing and proposed conditions. Yeah. And then they will come out during construction and verify that you're doing what you said you were going to do.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. So I'm just wondering, many of the homes in our area are built in the teens or 20s, and these garages were built at that time. Just overall, because I know that you can't say, for every single home, but what does that look like? What does that mean for the homeowner that wants to bring their current garage up into and create an ADU? I'm thinking of like mine. It's just the original garage. There's some electrical that's been upgraded, but it's a cement slab. and I can see all the rafters, and I can see the, the roof, and I can see the walls, something like that. What needs to be done to
make it
bring
habitable.
that building up to, in regards to the actual structure itself?
Yeah. So one of the things is the slab. A concrete slab doesn't have a secure barrier to moisture. So you're going to have to probably make a determination. I don't know if it's ever rained, if it ever leaks in there. You're either going to have to put a floor above the concrete slab, not on it, because if you put a wood floor on a concrete slab, it's going to expand and contract, unless you have a barrier underneath it, a waterproof barrier underneath it. So you'll have to put in a new floor, or you'll have to take out the concrete slab and put in a new slab that has a moisture barrier to it. You're going to have to put in insulation and heating, plumbing, electrical, and all of those things need to be checked with the capacity that your existing residence has. They can be extended from your existing residence, but frequently you have to upgrade your plumbing line or your electrical line in order to handle the increased capacity. You do have to go through something called Title 24, which is an energy review, but they chose to make the standards for Title 24 less stringent on an ADU than on a regular house. So that's good news. And then you'll want to, I mean, the most important thing is that whether it structurally stands up for habitable space, not just a garage, but habitable space. And those standards are higher than a garage. So you probably have to do an increase in structural framing in order to make things work. And then you might want to drywall.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily have to take all the walls down and start over. You can work with the existing walls, but add to reinforce it. Is that what you're saying?
It really depends upon the shape of the garage, but I have done ADUs where we've just put a structure inside the garage to hold up the old existing garage. It's a delicate operation.
It sounds like,
well,
I'm thinking, there's just a lot of unknowns, right? And these are just 100-year-old garages.
Yeah.
I know a lot of my inspections that I do when we have a detached garage is there seems to always be some kind of water intrusion. And quite often it is because the garage is not equipped with the right system to move the water away from the foundation of the home. It doesn't have a French drain in the front. And quite often, the way the property is set, the water moves, downward towards the garage. So always in those little crevice corners of the garage, it seems like in the heaviest of rains, usually there might be some intrusion, which actually happens to my garage. But that's interesting. I didn't know about the flooring. So thank you for sharing that. Out of all of those things, I'm just thinking along as you're talking, all those different, structural aspects of the home, what tends to be the most expensive part of the job?
I would say structure, always, whether it's an ADU or anything else, it's always structure. You really can't understand the cost of construction until you have the structural drawings with you. And then I think when it comes to ADUs, if it's an attached garage to your house, it probably doesn't make too much of a difference. But if it's a separate detached garage that's at the back of your property, or if you choose to do an accessory dwelling unit that's separate from anything else on your property and it's in the back, you have to run power lines, water lines, gas lines to that area. And I think that is something that people don't think about as much.
I was even just thinking about some of the properties I've worked on that had septic systems.
Right.
And that probably could be a huge issue, adding a ADU to the property and not thinking about that may overload the current system. And the cost, to improve that, I know is extraordinary.
Yeah. Cynthia, there's one thing that I think I just want to, before I forget, is you're talking about garages that may be 100 years old, and you can go to the city and say, I can't rebuild this garage, I can't rebuild this structure. And we have to tear it down. But our intent has always been to build right in this footprint. Typically, if you tear something down, you have to upgrade everything which means setting it into the new setbacks. But if you're trying to do an ADU and you have to tear down an old garage, the building department will allow you to build right there on the property line where that garage is, because of the intent of making it your garage an ADU.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really interesting. And so if my garage is 400 square feet and I have the ability and approval to add more square footage and really push that ADU to as large as I can get approved, because I know that that actually, from what I understand, and this is not a guarantee for people that are listening, but when that square footage is permitted as livable space, then I can market it as livable space.
Yes.
And if it's livable space and you're in an area that, 650 is the average the average price per square foot for Pasadena. I think it's 668 for April, actually. So just times that figure, 400 square feet times that, it adds an incredible amount of value. If a family wanted to maximize that, does that make the whole project just much more difficult because they're adding on to the garage and adding space, and it just becomes much more expensive project to complete?
Well, I don't think it costs $650 a square foot to add on. I think in certain cases I have had work that has cost $600 a square foot to add on, but it's really high-end work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you choose to add on 400 or 800, it's probably a good value.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about a garage and adding on to the garage itself, the addition must be set in to the garage may sit on a property line, for instance, but the addition that you're adding on must be set in from the property line to a minimum of 4 feet. And if it's over 800 square feet, depending upon the building department, it must be set in 5 feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it just has to, if yours is on the property line, you'll have to work within what the setbacks are for the current.
Yes, and this is one of the reasons why I think it's really important to do the research, to hire somebody who does know about ADUs, someone like me, or probably not a structural engineer so much, but a contractor who's been working on ADUs, knows all about this as well.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of an ADU, and I'm considering it, for my own home for sure. And I have a freestanding garage. So this is.
Well, let me know.
I know, right? I could be your client. I already refer you guys. So Liza is a wonderful resource in our area, and she's worked on so many historical, most everything she works on probably has historical significance. So I think that experience and working with these very complicated and unique homes, having that expertise is so important. So that's why I value having you on
Thanks, Cynthia.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's thrilling to be here.
One thing I know with the ADUs that I feel like is really changing the neighborhoods, and this is just my own preference, I like living in an area that there's not a lot of parking on the street. That's just me. And I know that that's probably something I've noticed in a lot of areas that do have more multi-homes on the same, very residential, but there's multi-units on the property. I've just noticed a lot more street parking.
I think that's a great point that you point out, because as I was saying earlier, if you choose to do an ADU in your garage, you no longer have to build a second garage area or carport for them. You don't have to accommodate for cars, which means, number one, you've densified your neighborhood because you're adding another living quarter. And if you're doing it, many people in your neighborhood are doing it as well.
Mhm.
And that means that, I mean, if you choose to build another garage, I do have a client that I'm doing an ADU for, and we are building another garage for them, then that's great. But in this process of trying to streamline and get these built, most building departments have said you do not need to, well, the state has said you do not need to accommodate, overhead parking for 2 cars. So they do wind up on the street, or they do wind up sitting in the driveway. And I'm laughing because I think this is such a silly detail, but in the city of Pasadena, they state exactly where in the driveway, like you can't go over the curb, it has to be in the driveway.
It can't be over the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. Well, I think that's something. I live in the county area of Pasadena, so we don't have that, regulation like the city of Pasadena. I've lived in and I know, but I'm just wondering, as people are adding ADUs, I think that charm of, just no one parking on the street, I really love. My block is wonderful. There's not that many people, but a couple blocks down, it's much denser and there are a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Great. How about, and I know it's about 5:42 and we're just going to go for a few more minutes, but what about doing this in a historic district like Bungalow Heaven, or one of these beautiful Pasadena Heights, one of these protected neighborhoods?
I'm doing something in Madison Heights right now, and it basically, you can do it. You just have to, it has to not be seen from the street. And then if you want to, anything like if you're using up a garage, let's say a historic garage for the ADU, and then you want to build a garage, and there's very little room, it's got to be at the end of a driveway, let's say, you do have to go through reviews with the city to make sure that the garage that you're proposing to build is appropriate. And then if it's truly like a National Historic Register building, it's just, no, you can't do it.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think the only other instance where you really can't do it is in a high fire zone, even with sprinklers. There's a couple of if, ands, or buts. And again, I would say you have to check with your particular building department.
I forgot about that one because that really did just happen to a client of mine who's in a high fire zone, and we didn't even realize that detail. And that's a big one. And there's many neighborhoods up in the foothills that are, considered, high fire zones. So that's a really great, a great point. I was just going to look to see if anybody on Facebook had any questions. Let's see. Can you talk about the LA City website that offers architect plans and ADUs?
Yes, of course. So the LA City website, and I can give you that website.
Yeah, please do.
It's www.LAD as in dog, B as in boy, S as in Sam.org/ADU. And you can go to that website, and there's a bunch of, you open it up and there's a bunch of text, but on the left-hand side are a couple of tabs, and there's a tab for the LA sort of plans. And there's an incredible amount of plans that you can look at. If there's anything that you're interested in, if there's anything that you like, the names of the architects are associated with each plan, and you can give them a call and start the process with them. And that is also streamlining it because they've basically got a design ready. They'll sell it to you very quickly. They know that they can get it through the building department. And that's why it's up on the LA County website, because these are plans that the county, the city believes are very usable.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, you guys, that was www.LAD as in David, B as in boy, S as in Sam.org/ADU.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Good, good. Well, is there anything else that you thought we should talk about on the call? We're about 5:45 with all of our technical issues.
I apologize if it sounds technical, but it's that the reason is that there are already accessory dwelling units that anyone can build. The difference happens to be in this little zoning sort of area where they've massaged the zoning so that it can be a dwelling unit as well. I think you've done a great job asking questions. I do think that the important things to emphasize are, it impacts your neighborhood. It impacts the density of housing. I believe that in the city of Los Angeles and probably in the county, if we consider this like an urban area, and you think about many other urban areas, there are 3 or 4 units to a plot. And Los Angeles is not like that, not mainly, but one of the big reasons is fire. But I think they figured out a lot of fire code stuff recently, and putting in an ADU does densify the neighborhood. And you might see more cars in the neighborhood, but it also, I think, increases the value of your property. And it extends, I love the idea of it so that my son never leaves home, which every mom, wants.
No, I think that brings up, Liza, you're a mom. Didn't your son just graduate?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great, but this is an issue many of us with kids, that are in their early 20s is, where are they going to live?
Yes.
And I know several families, friends of mine are already thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I should, I think I want to buy a condo and just use it as investment now. And when my son gets out of college or down the line, or daughter, they'll have a place in California, to live. So the ADU really can be a fantastic use for that, for maybe an aging family member in place, so they can age in place. I think that is fantastic. Still with quite a lot of independence, having your own kitchen and bath. I think that is wonderful. It can also be an opportunity for you to generate income at your home and rent it out. And at this point where pricing is, oh gosh, you could be looking at $1,400 or $1,500 just for your accessory dwelling unit, depending on the unit and the size.
Yeah.
So there's a wonderful value. And then for the rest of us who, use their home as an office, which are many more of us, and many more of us will probably split our time working at the office and at, a couple of days at home as well. Having that unit completed like that can give you that additional space, that you're really desiring. So there's so many benefits to, adding an accessory dwelling unit. I know from my experience over the last couple of years out there, writing lots of offers for buyers and representing sellers who have had even guest houses permitted that didn't, have the full kitchen, but did have, were permitted as guest homes or had ADUs. The number of interested buyers, and I can't give you an exact percentage, but I can tell you that those properties have an extraordinary amount of interest. Also from, artists, as studio space, just any additional bonus space right now is really the hottest ticket on the market. So thank you so much, Liza, for your time. It's always such a pleasure to see you and talk to you about all things
My
design.
pleasure.
I really appreciate it. I always feel so excited when I uncover a friend and client that might need your services and introducing you to. And thank you again for helping me make a thoughtful design choice for my automatic gate. I couldn't have done it with
welcome.
It's like I have no clue like how many inches. I don't know. But it was perfect. So you helped me add a lot of value to my own home. So I really appreciate it. So for those of you who are listening today, if this conversation really piqued your interest in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via email or phone. You can reach me on my business line at 714-6808, or at my email at cynthia@cynthiacohn.com. Again, I am the owner broker of Cynthia Cohn and Associates in Pasadena, and I am one of the only women-owned brokerages in the state of California who focuses on residential real estate with an emphasis of supporting executors and trustees. And we really look to provide you and your family really world-class protection, care, and results when you really need and deserve it most, when you're selling your largest asset. Really. So if you're interested in selling, wondering what the market is and relocating, or thinking about getting into the market and buying a home, please reach out to me. I'm here as a resource to you all. I'll be sending an email follow-up with lots of information and Liza's information. And I know she's happy to answer any of your questions about ADUs or residential design. Liza, what is the best way for our listeners and people that are watching on Facebook Live to reach you?
It occurred to me, we haven't said the name of my practice.
Yes, Blue Studio.
It's Blue Studio. I should have said that when you asked me to speak about it. And so the way to contact me through email is bluestudio.91@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And I will include that in the email, and happy to send along your information, Liza. So I want to thank all of you for joining me here today at my fireside chat. It was about 80 degrees today, so there is no fire, although I've got a jacket on and my house is pretty cool, but no fire today, but we're still going to call it the fireside chat. So I'm so glad that you are here. And I really can't wait till my next one. I am going to have Arizona real estate broker owner, Yulana Isham, here on June 9th. And she is going to be talking to us and answering our questions about Arizona and specifically the Phoenix market. So if you have been kind of thinking about maybe relocating in the months or years to come, and Arizona, I was just there. It's fantastic, especially like downtown Phoenix. I really loved it. And Tucson, don't miss it. It's going to be really great. I can't wait to hear all about the market there and what's going on. And I hope that you all have a fantastic evening. And again, I'm Cynthia Cohn with Cynthia Cohn and Associates here in Pasadena, California. And thanks so much for joining us.